Hey everybody, it's September 18th. Yesterday was the first coolish day in September we've had here. The rest of September's been screaming hot. Today was a really cold, cloudy, windy day, and the clouds just cleared off here, and it's 4:45 in the afternoon. We got slight frost. I don't know whether you can see it. These cucumber plants are crippled, but not too bad. I think tomorrow morning we're probably going to get a heavy frost. I was kind of expecting the possibility of frost last night, so I did pick all my cucumbers, and I did picking of tomatoes. I didn't get too ridiculous. I just picked the tomatoes that were kind of ripening. Anyway, you can see a lot of the cucumber vines look just groovy, so it was a very light frost. Tomato plants look okay too. There's another Roma over there. You can see my bush beans kind of got wounded. Leaves are looking a little tough shape. They got touched just a little bit last night, but nothing major. This time tomorrow though, I think they're going to be flattened. I'm going to pick most of my onions tonight. Anyway, let's get rolling and I'll show you what I get. Okay, so the onions, they started between the first and the second stone there on the right. And I harvested, I guess, probably about 75% of my onions. I decided to leave some just to see how they'll react to frost. My theory is that they're actively growing and they should be able to survive frost. They grow kind of practically through the snow in the spring when you plant them as sets. They handle frost in the spring. My theory is they'll handle frost in the fall as long as they're actively growing. And by actively growing, what I mean is, you can see the bulb on the right has a thick stalk still. The one on the left is played out. It's fallen over by itself actually. It's all rubbery, and that's the sure sign that your onion is finished growing. This one here still has a thick neck. I pulled it out because I don't want to risk losing it. Last year I harvested my onions Thanksgiving weekend, but I think I'm getting a severe frost tonight possibly, so that's why I decided to pull most of them. Anyway, we'll get these bad boys on the drying table and we'll count them up and we'll see what we got. I'm a firm believer in leaving things like these potatoes in the ground for the as late as possible. I don't pull potatoes usually until mid-October, weather depending. I leave them in till the last second. My theory is that the tops are dead, but there is still some roots down below feeding the tubers some moisture. Anyway, I digress. Let's take this thing in the garage and see where we're at. Okay, so I counted them up. There's 83 of them sitting on that 4x8 platform there in my mobile greenhouse. There's 21 left in the garden. Last year I put 66 in the bin, and I used up my last couple in August there, and I only had to throw maybe one or two out before they were getting... 66 is a good number, so I got this plus the 21. I got lots of onions this year. One thing I didn't have before in my last few years doing this is I've got these seed stalks here. You know, that hard stalk where your flower head goes like that. This would be your seed stalk. I guess this one's curled over. My prediction is that these aren't good for drying or for storage. My guess is that these few onions here, these 10 or 12 or whatever with these thick stalks, are not going to store as well. So what I'll do is I'll let them mellow out for a day or a week or however long it takes, and then I'll try and fold them over and get them to mature, dry out quicker. If I find the weather isn't cooperating and it's not very warm, I'll put a big fan here and it blows along the tops and it dries them out quicker that way. Another thing I like to do, it's kind of like a farmer who cuts his hay and they put it through a crimper. I'll take and go like that and split it open. Go like that on all of them, and that'll speed up your drying as well. But it's very early in the year. I'm certainly not worried about them drying in time. I know cabbages will take frost, but I've got 3 cabbages left. I've decided I'm going to go ahead and harvest 2. Probably take that one of these 2. Probably that one. Anyway, you can see the cabbage moths are in there pretty good. Got 2 out of the 3 heads. They're bigger than they look, folks. I'm going to have to go through them probably and peel yet a few more leaves off of them before I'm worm free. Here's the tomatoes that I picked in the last couple days expecting possible frost. This is only like a small part of my tomatoes. I guess if I get frost tonight it won't kill me. I've made tons of stuff like sauce and canned tomatoes and such, salsa. And here's I guess the bulk of the rest of my peppers. Usually I wait till they're red, but tonight I decided to get them green ones. I harvested a few green ones last night for tomato sauce. Probably not too many more peppers for me this year after this. My 2 cabbages will go in the fridge. The bush beans are apparently sitting on the stove. Gotta go. So, tonight I gotta cut up all those peppers yet, and I have to harvest pole beans. I sure hope we don't get frost tonight. Pole beans are just getting rolling nice and tall. And I've decided to cover my tomatoes. Those are nice thick blankets, so hopefully they'll do the job for those few tomatoes. And we'll see what we can do with these few tomato plants. That green tarp by itself is not very good for keeping off the frost. In fact, I believe it's supposed to actually attract the frost. But I figure it over top of the blankies should be better than just the blankies. This will be no doubt the final corn harvest of the year. Anyway, here's kind of a harvest of pole beans. The ones on the left are pretty gnarly big. I'll probably just throw those in the compost. Maybe I'll shell them. I'd harvest my dill tonight, but I'm just so lazy. I should harvest it and freeze it or dry it, but you gotta clean the bugs off. Maybe my wife will do it, we'll see. So it looks like my blankets kept the frost at bay last night on these anyway. It was -2 this morning when I left for work at 6. It probably got colder for at least an hour after that, but let's see how everything else fared. Yes, the pole beans are toast. So that'll have to come down. You guessed it, cucumber vines can't handle frost at all, so they're toast. I tried to cover up. You could see a little glimmer of green over by the tomatoes there. I covered some of them up. We'll see if any of them will provide a few more cucumbers this year. They even got wounded underneath their blanket there. Hopefully they'll survive and maybe give us enough cucumbers for fresh eating for salads and stuff. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. Looks like the tomatoes fared fairly well underneath my blankets as well out in the garden. You can see made the right call picking the bush beans last night. Also toast are my pepper plants. So again, good call harvesting them last night. Here's a prime example of what all my pepper plants look like. And the onions, as you can see, they look just fine. So there you have it, folks. Onions will tolerate some frost. Of course the carrots are fine, and the parsnips are fine. And the corn, of course, it's gone pretty much, so I'll be shredding it and throwing it back in the dirt this weekend. I just grabbed a hold and felt the cabbage, and the leaves look fine and it feels fine. So I'm sure cabbages handle it as well. I already know Brussels sprouts will handle frost. Brussels sprouts will handle an incredible amount of frost, actually. I'm a little on the fence about the dill. It looks like it could be scorched, but it doesn't look too bad. We'll have to see what time shows on that. There's my first wave of dill. There's my second wave of dill, and you can see my bunching onions handled the frost just fine, as did the Swiss chard and the broad beans and celery. And thank God my zucchini froze. I can finally pull it out in good conscience.